The other week I was speaking to a very nice man called Clover, and he was telling me all about this wildlife show that his kids watch called Deadly 60. Have you ever heard of it?
I've seen it when I flipped through.
Have you ever watched
the box? I've never watched it, no.
Me neither. I mean, I hadn't heard about it until he told me about it, and I know nothing about the show other than what he's told me. Unlike our other videos, I've done no research for this whatsoever.
Ooh.
This is based solely on what Clover told me about Deadly 60, so it might be all be a lot of rubbish. But I trust Clover. He asked me if I'd heard of Deadly 60. I don't know why we got into the subject, and I said no, I hadn't. But alarm bells started ringing because the title of the show reminded me of Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. Remember that show?
Yeah.
That show was terrible.
I didn't think it was that bad, but people seem to think it was terrible.
I was like, what if 30 Rock had barely any jokes and took itself far too seriously and was like, every episode was like 3 times as long, or twice as long. Anyway, Deadly 60. Apparently Deadly 60 is one children's television presenter's journey as he goes around and, and looks at the 60 most deadly animals in the world.
Oh.
But it's kind of meaningless now because they've done more than 60 episodes. Oh. I feel sorry for the fellow because if his show is successful, they'll have to keep making more and more episodes, and eventually he's just going to run out of deadly animals. And there will come a point, if his show continues, where it's just going to be him going, oh, look at this cow, whoa!
Tell me that a herd of cows coming towards you wouldn't scare the crap out of you.
No, you got me there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it got me thinking about the sorts of wildlife shows that we watched when we were at the age of Clover's children. We had the Really Wild Show.
The Really Wild Show, yeah.
Which, looking back on it, wasn't very wild. A lot of it took place in a studio, as I recall.
Yeah.
Unlike Deadly 60, where he's always out on location, a lot of it took place either in a studio or the wildest parts of the programmes were the entomology bits, where it's all about the bugs. And that took place in Chris Packham's basement.
Yeah, it was
the basement in his house. Come on, it's so wild down here. Look at all these dead butterflies I've got. Encased in lucite.
Look at this tiny amoeba in the
I can't remember a massive amount about that show, but the wildest thing I remember was when one of the presenters, I think his name was Howie or something, got spat on by a llama. Do you remember that? A llama. He approaches a llama from the front, but he gets too close. The llama spits at him, and he goes, "Oh, I won't be doing that again."
That's why I couldn't do anything like that. Chris Packham, they were in a zoo. Wild. He was holding a monkey, like how they hold monkeys like babies. The monkey started picking his nose.
Chris Packham's
nose. How horrendous is that? And I remember watching it, and he just let it happen as well. And I was getting more and more freaked out watching it, be like, there's a hairy finger in your nose. It's not your own finger. And what are you gonna do? And he wasn't doing anything. And then he ate the bogey, the monkey, and didn't enjoy it. And I remember thinking, that is horrendous. Why would I want to go near any animal that thinks it has the right to put their own fingers in my nose? But
the Really Wild Show, however tame and not very wild it was still wilder than the sort of wildlife shows that our parents had. Have you ever heard of the show Animal Magic with Johnny Morris?
No.
That was very not wild, I think. Again, that was animals in zoos. And what they did is they just film animals just messing about the zoo, and then Johnny Morris would put his own narration on, sort of like put on the voices of what the animals must be saying.
Yes, no, I have heard of that. Yeah, and he did really good impressions though. It was funny.
It's sort of like it was quite charming.
Yeah,
but it certainly wasn't very educational. No. I mean, I'm sure the animals probably weren't thinking the sort of things that he was suggesting that they were thinking. What's interesting is Johnny Morris's Animal Magic, not very wild. No. The Really Wild Show, more wild. A bit wilder. Deadly 60, quite a bit more wild from the sounds of things. Yeah. What sort of wildlife shows will our kids be watching? I'll just be presented by the Great White Shark, presented by the tiger.
Seriously though, that's like one step away from Bear Grylls. Isn't it? I don't want my child knowing that if you suck on the juices of elephant dung, you'll live that 30 minutes extra to get you to safety. God, my fringe is getting long. Look at that. I can't even see my eyes.
You're resembling more and more Samara from The Ring. I think.
Was it scary?
Well, I couldn't tell.
Oh.